Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Linh and today it's such an honor to be here and tell with you all my story, the journey of how I became stronger. Now, before I begin, I want to show you something. This, a piece of old newspaper. Now, when you look at it, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? A quick way to catch quick news, a fan on a hot summer day, or maybe just a pile of paper, outdated and ready to be thrown away? Well, to me, this very newspaper would mean so much more because it was the very first step I ever took outside my comfort zone. Strange? Maybe, but let me tell you what. Back in 8th grade, I thought life was fine. My goals, I didn't have any. I had no fear, no challenges, no surprises. But something strange started happening. The days began to blur together. Monday or Friday didn't make a difference. Every day, I'd wake up, eat breakfast, go to school, smile, and yet, the moment I got home, I'd close the door and feel nothing. I mean, I was smiling on the outside, but inside, it was like the volume of my life has been turned down, and everything felt muted. And deep down, I suddenly realized that I wasn't really living. I was just existing. Because to exist means that you are breathing. But to live, truly live, you need a reason to wake up in the morning, you need something to chase, you need to ask yourself every day, how can I be stronger than I was yesterday? That's what was missing. I had comfort, but I had no growth, no direction, and no purpose. Then came the school's recycle fashion show. I was asked to design outfits for art class. Everything was going well until the night before the show. One of our 2 models, the star of the group, suddenly dropped out because she was too embarrassed to wear recycled paper on stage. Everyone panicked, and all eyes turned to me. The short one, the quiet one, the girl with glasses and no runway walk, as if to say, "You're the model now." So I froze, and inside me, one voice screamed, "No way, I can't do this." However, a quieter voice whispered, "But what if I could?" I went home that night unsure of what to do, so I told my mom, but she just said, "How would you know you can't if you never try?" I hesitated, "But Mom, what if I fail?" She smiled, "Then fail." I mean, she said it so simply, like it was nothing. But to me, that word fail was terrifying. However, she continued, "Thomas Edison failed over 10,000 times before he created the light bulb." Suddenly, I realized that failure didn't sound like the end. It sounded like the beginning. And when I finally calmed myself down, thanks to her words, another problem struck. The dress I was supposed to wear wasn't made for me. I mean, the measurements didn't fit at all, so I just couldn't wear it. And panic crept back in. I was really worried and desperate. But then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A stack of old newspaper stuck away under a pile of books in my closet. And that was the moment the idea was born, a newspaper dress. With my mom's help, I spent the entire night cutting, trimming, gluing, piece by piece, until it became a dress with a round, fan-shaped design right in front. And standing in front of the mirror, I wondered if I had enough courage to stand and to wear it on stage. But then I encouraged myself, yes, you can do it. But all the courage I've practiced and saved up since that night seemed to vanish completely the next morning when I stood backstage. My heart was pounding, and excuses filled my head. Fake a stomachache, run and hide. However, my mom's voice again, "How would you know you can't if you never try?" So I took a deep breath and stepped onto the stage. Well, at that moment, when the music started and I can feel my step echoed, I didn't know where to look. My arms were stiff, my legs didn't feel like mine. But I felt like I wasn't just walking down a runway, but I was walking into a new version of myself. So my footsteps grew firm and bold. Applause broke out, judges nodded, friends cheered, and inside me, something shifted. Well, in that contest, I didn't win the first place, but I won something greater. I won against the voice that told me I couldn't. I proved to myself that fear didn't own me. That day, I wasn't sure if I would ever become a model, but I knew one thing for sure. I had already become someone stronger. And in that moment, when I was walking, the dress I was wearing, made from this very newspaper, rustled as I walked. And in that moment, it whispered to me, I'm just old paper, forgotten, tossed away. But now I shine, so why can't you? Suddenly, I realized that maybe I had been just like that old newspaper, quiet, faded, overlooked. But somehow, here I was, walking, standing, and living in front of everyone. And so, next with my story. The next time I had to step up in class, I did. I no longer ran away from presenting. I no longer shied away from debates or speaking in front of people. I began to speak up, and I started to lead. The girl who once felt too small, too quiet, she became the girl who could. And I began to trust myself, and each time I trusted myself, I became a little bit stronger. And now, every time I see a piece of old newspaper like this, I no longer see it as useless or lifeless, but instead I see myself, someone who once thought I was just ordinary. But it turns out I could still shine brightly if I dared to take the first step. And it was those very first catwalk steps, awkward, uncertain, but bold, that gave me the courage and the confidence to stand here today on this TEDx stage. Okay, so that's the end of my story, and after listening to that, some of you or some people might think that, wow, the way you walked down the runway, so confident, so radiant, which means you must have succeeded. Well, this race sounds reasonable, right? But if that's true, does it mean that if it had stumbled, it would have been a failure? Well, I don't think so. The reason? Now, look at these pictures. I really love them. For a long time, I thought that they were my best photos, which I wore the finished dress, the perfect snapshot of success. But now, I wish I had other photos too. The photos of the process, of the moment I dared to pick up that old newspaper, at my hands cutting, trimming, and gluing all night. Because if these photos show my confidence after the transformation, those other photos would tell a deeper story, which began with fear, doubt, and internal struggles before I found the strength to step into the light. And success? Well, to me, it came right at the moment I dared to imagine myself on that runway and pick up that old newspaper to bring my idea to life. So, and to me, the prize has never been the ultimate goal. But what really matters, the real treasures, is the journey that brings you there. So, if one day, after putting your heart and your soul into something, you don't see your name on the list, or you don't win anything, or you only get a really small prize in a competition you give everything to, it's okay. Because at the moment you dare to imagine myself, to take that first step and strive for it, you've already become stronger. And to me, that's the simplest definition of success. Okay, but now if you're still hesitating to take that first step, let me share with you an eye-opening statistic. When asked about their biggest regret, 92% of elderly people didn't talk about making the wrong choice or taking too many risks, but instead, they say their biggest regret was not having the courage to try something when they were younger. Now that you know that, what do you think you need to do now? Is there something you've always wanted to do but your fear kept whispering, what if you fail? What are you missing by choosing safety over strength? And most of all, who could you become if you chose to be just a little braver today? Well, maybe that version of yourself is already waiting for you to take that first step. Because in the end, living isn't about staying safe. It's about becoming better and stronger every single day. And remember, finally, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And the stronger you become, the more fully you live. And instill in your mind what truly matters is the process and the journey, not the prize. Thank you.